Hello, language course creators. We are honored to have you listening and looking in today as we hear from a panel of top language course creators from around the world, literally this time. We know you're all well on your way to successful virtual classes, and we want to help you improve ratings and revenue with different making tips and tricks. Today, what we'll talk about: how to convince parents of the value of online language learning, how to leverage online teaching for development and fun, how to onboard and manage a large group of teachers, and how to differentiate and create your own little niche. We can't wait to see the new heights your program can reach with the help of today's expert advice. Here's to improving your business and impacting the lives of language course creators. Now, we are all here because of one person and one company, and that is Click2, and that's the founder and CEO of Click2. That's Dotan Tamir. He's with us. And Dotan, welcome everybody, please, to our group.
Thank you so much, Josh. Hi, hello, I'm Dotan. I'm from Click2. Click2 is an end-to-end solution for enrichment providers who are looking to thrive in the online space. But we're not only a software platform, we actually understand what turns an online course into an amazing experience and a journey for kids. I got some stuff to show you, but you'll have to stick with us all the way to the end for a glimpse of all that good. That's not going to be hard, because this discussion today is very relevant to where the industry is right now. Online is here to stay, and we all have to excel at it. There's a lot to do, and we got some challenging questions for our wonderful panelists. Thanks to all the panelists. This is going to be exciting. So Josh, let's start.
Let's do it. So a few news and notes before we get started. Again, welcome everybody to our special event featuring our guests from around the world in the language industry. We've got a serious group of people in the audience today as well, which is great. So we've got founders and CEOs, owners, and key executives of some of the nation's top language course providers. Let us know who you are, please, where you're from and what you do in the chat. We've got Joyce on our team. She's fantastic. She keeps the trains on the tracks. So now is the time that everybody's been waiting for. We are going to meet our panelists. So we have one thing that we do specifically in our format is that we kind of do the introduction for each one of our panelists before they start talking. We find that it keeps everything a little bit tighter. And then we've also assigned them each one question. So we are going to start with Rebecca Schwengber, right, Rebecca? CEO and founder of Language Sprout, an award-winning language school made for kids. She is joining us from beautiful Minneapolis, Minnesota. Rebecca, your question: how do you onboard and manage a large group of teachers while keeping super high standards?
Well, that is actually kind of a three-part question, isn't it? So we have a couple different things in there. The first one is, how do we onboard them, right? And so we do that with having a well-developed, robust, and documented curriculum. We really like to make sure the same way that we're teaching kids, the same way we put the time and the effort into making a curriculum for kids, we want to make that same quality curriculum for our teachers, because we want them to feel like they have something to teach, correct? And teachers really are our most important assets. They are individuals who need flexible and adaptable systems. So that is like the first part of that. And then the second part really is, how do we attract those teachers? How do we keep those teachers? And how do we manage them long term? And I really think there is secret sauce to this. So like the obvious answer is we have great systems in place. We have an online training program. We have office hours and training hours for our teachers. But the secret sauce to me is the creation of a community within our teaching staff, that our teachers feel part of our mission statement, which is not just to come in and teach a class and interact with kids, but they're part of a desire to change the way language is taught. They want to be part of the community that empowers and inspires students. And so we do a lot of community building so that they feel as though that they can contribute to what we're teaching. This leads to a lot of peer support, a lot of collaboration, a lot of ingenuity, because we really always want to be developing our program to be the best program it can be. And so really the big part is having an extra curriculum for students, having an excellent curriculum for our teachers, and really inspiring them to be part of students' lives to be their greater community lives. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think what one thing that differentiate the whole group of organizations that are in this webinar and many of the other players is that you all are focusing on an experience that's led by an instructor live with small groups. While, there are a lot of ways to learn language, and maybe we'll mention a few later on, like apps and games and then YouTube's. But I think what's unique here is that there's actually an instructor. It might be something that is given to so many people. Of course, in education, you learn there's an instructor, but I think today there are so many other things. So anybody else here wants to share like the challenge to recruiting the teachers or train them or monitoring them or keeping these high standards when they are actually teachers working for you from their home, delivering your content?
I think a lot of that is about communication, right? And making sure that you have the support staff in place to support them.
So not just you,
challenging.
Rebecca.
No, not just me. No, we want to make sure that, they have teams in which they work within that team. If they have a question, that they feel as though they're a part of a group and they can find support, not just from, their own research or their own learning within our training program, but they can find it within the other teachers, especially when we're virtual and we feel very alone. Having those opportunities to build that community where your teachers are, colleagues to one another, which doesn't always feel that way when you do remote work, but it's totally possible. The same way we build communities within our students, we build them within our teacher groups.
So you're building community, and probably a very strong community is going to help parents understand and see the value. So I'm gonna take us to another panelist here, Mercedes Moresco. Mercedes is CEO and founder of Educando America, a Spanish language program that was started in 2004. And Mercedes, your question here: how do we convince parents of the value of online learning when it comes to languages?
Of course. Let me tell you one thing. The parents will see the value by themselves. And this is a big difference when you teach face-to-face classes. What is the difference? There are many differences, but one is that the parents, when you teach small children, will be there. The parents will be in your class. The parents will listen to your class, will see how you manage, no matter if they could be side by side with the student or not, they could be around the house, but they will pay attention. They will see how you manage any frustration of the students. They will see if they are motivated or not. They will listen to everything, and this is an opportunity. It's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity, because they will see and they will convince themselves by just listening to the class. And this is very interesting. This doesn't happen in school. So this is something that we as teachers need to take advantage of.
Mercedes, is that a challenge? It's an opportunity, of course, because parents are listening. Can it also be a challenge? And maybe this isn't just when it comes to languages, this is any sort of online learning, but that the parents are kind of listening all of the time.
Yes, it's a challenge. It's a challenge because parents can also have their own thoughts about how to teach a language. For example, sometimes if their students make a mistake when speaking, they correct them right there. And sometimes this is not what we as teachers are looking for, because sometimes you want your student to be able to communicate, to speak, to be more fluent. And if you correct every single mistake, as I am probably doing now, I will freeze. I say, no, I don't talk anymore. This is naturally, this happens. So sometimes you need to tell the parent, okay, I'm doing this because of that. You need to explain a lot of things. And they get more involved in your class because they listen to the class. So this is one thing, but there's more. Online learning also emphasizes the communicative approach. When you learn a language, you learn it to be able to communicate in that language. And sometimes face-to-face classes, you can have a student for 1 hour sitting in a chair without communicating, without speaking a word, just completing worksheets and doing grammar, and that's the class. And online learning, this is very different, especially, of course, if you have a small group or private class, even more. They need to talk, they need to write, even on the chat, they need to communicate, they are forced to communicate. So that's another good point. And the last one would be that the use of the technology is very natural for the student, for the children especially. They love the technology, they love the games, the activities that you have that we provide them. And so we use it to motivate the students. They love it. And also many times we learn from them. And they love to teach us how to use this and that and what you can do. Let me show you this photo, of course, in Spanish. But that's also one good point.
I really relate to what you're mentioning, Mercedes, and I think that the pandemic has shifted a lot of how we communicate with people. I think today, being able to do all that online is an important skill. When they grow up, they will actually do a lot of their work online. They'll do a lot of their studies online. So starting now, communicating, learning online is actually also building their just general communication and tech skills for life. Rebecca, you wanted to add something about that as well?
Yeah, I was just going to follow up on the parents being involved. It is phenomenal. Right? Sometimes they pop in and, they get to be part of the class. They get to be engaged. It is so wonderful. And, we also do in-person classes. But when we have parents who are engaged, we can help the parents incorporate language into their daily life. Right? So we can say, hey, this is what we're working on this week. This is how we'd like you to follow up. And we have the ability, even if the parents are, halfway across the house listening, they're learning those skills so that the students get other opportunities to be able to practice throughout the week. So I actually think parents being involved is one of the greatest parts of online language classes. Is it allows for a significant reinforcement throughout the week with our students that we don't necessarily get when we don't have interaction with the parents regularly.
I'm laughing because I'm from Washington, D.C., but I since moved to a small town in Mexico, and my wife is fluent in Spanish, and so is my daughter. So it's kind of flipped in my house because every time I try and speak Spanish, my daughter corrects me. And so I absolutely know what you're talking about, Mercedes, in terms of, as you get corrected, you kind of, begin to pull back and lose some of that confidence. Although my 7-year-old daughter thinks it's hilarious when I pronounce names in the restaurants the wrong way. So, but we'll get to that. So let's talk about other skills that the kids are also building other than languages. We have Alex Huot. Alex is joining us from Montreal. He has over 8 years and been in close collaboration with Lang Mobile. And we've been talking for actually a while with this great company. So Alex, your question, how do you leverage online teaching for developing character and life skills, while also, of course, keeping it fun, because that's what we know the kids need?
Yeah, of course. I think the first thing is really to not see the language as a finality and really see it as a tool or as an opportunity. Grammar and the structure of language is so important, but it's what I experience being like in a bilingual province is that it takes all the space when you're in a scholar environment, and there's not a lot of space for the other things. And I think just being here, I'm the perfect example, being here in this webinar and meeting these amazing panelists and people. English is my second language. And being here and experiencing this webinar and being so proud of me for achieving this and experiencing joy by just connecting with other people is something I do through English or with English. But English is not the finality of it. It's just a tool for me to achieve something new, right? So I think the language has really really has to be seen as a tool to broaden your identity. And you kind of want to express that to everything that we said before, to the teachers, to the parents, and then the last stop to the children. So a bit more concretely, this is all beautiful in theory, but a bit more concretely, I think it goes through fun. Learning goes through fun, through themes, activity, immersion. Again, to take the words of Mercedes, small groups is definitely helpful, because the key for me is to put the emphasis on connection. Connection between the students, connection with the theme or the activity that we're doing right now. And most importantly, and this is the biggest opportunity we have with online, they are home, they are in their environment, you know? So it's important to be able to connect with the real world, connect with their environment, and let them show you something from their house. Let them show you something, you know, ask them to react to the activity you're doing right now. And through activities like we do this through activities like book club or glee club, or things that are really specific, like go in, you know, with specific themes, specific activity. Online gives you the opportunity to not be stuck in your classroom with people not having the same interest as you. You can go all over the world and create a small group of children that are passionate about this book, you know, this specific book, and they can express themselves on it. And really, this is where your identity just grows, because you have the space to do it. And even though language is a great opportunity, it's really the tool that brings you there and brings you all those great positive feelings. So yeah, this is how I see it.
I wanted to follow up on this, Alex. And in my previous career, I started a summer camp in Israel that brings together kids from 30 different countries. And wow. So imagine the number of languages and cultures that, you know, came into this mix of experiences and fun. And you know, we actually never taught language, but we always felt like the kids are learning a lot of language, because they were really using it to bridge between themselves and basically to do stuff together. So they were using it to learn stuff. And then they started liking this idea of speaking another language. So I really relate to that. And I think there's, Ara, you have more to talk about when it comes to cultures and regarding languages. So you were not introduced yet, but take the mic and then Josh will introduce you.
Totally. I will introduce my neighbor here in Mexico. Ara is in Guadalajara. Ara Vazquez is the founder and CEO of Tuk Tuk Spanish. And it's a language learning based company based in New York City. But again, she's my neighbor here in Mexico. And what she's going to talk about here is how to differentiate and create your own niche. And right there, you could see right there on her shirt, she's got it loud and proud there. So talk about how you differentiate yourself outside of the beautiful blue shirt you have on.
Thank you, Josh. And well, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. And yes, I'm Ara. I started this Spanish school in New York City. And something that we have to look first in a business is okay, what type of business? That all of us were here and people who are listening from their homes. Yes, you already started a language school. You're not selling hats, you're not selling food. You already have, niche that is people who want to learn languages. But if you start just okay, I'm going to teach languages. What language? Well, we teach everything. We will find a teacher for you. We teach every language. And who are you going to teach to? Kids, adults, teens, it doesn't matter. Where are they? No, everywhere, everything in the world, right? It's the internet era, we can reach everyone in the world. If you start just talking to everyone like that and teaching everything, at the end, you're going to be a generic language school that no one can relate to. think that nowadays we need to really be narrowing it down, and you want to be big fish in a small pond, because you're going to be the small fish, like a generic language school in the sea of schools. You're not going to talk, and you're not going to anyone specific, and no one is going to feel related to you. So what we do in Talk Talk Spanish, for instance, we're based in New York City, so our personality and our niche is very much like the New York families, and we teach exclusively to kids. And let's say our niche are people, either like families of immigrants or people who feel connected to the Hispanic culture and want their kids to learn Spanish. So that's our like very narrowed down niche. And it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't mean that we're not going to teach someone from other countries. Actually, we have families like in Korea and Australia. But again, like our niche is one, and you have to be specific about it.
I don't know about you, Dotan, but as a business owner, I hear what you're saying, Ara. I hear it, but it almost makes me a little nervous, because I'm like, wow. So, okay, so you're going to be very narrow about who you're talking to, and you'll be very narrow about who you're teaching, and
Yes.
one language and one group of people. Dotan, I mean, I would imagine, having known you now for a little while, you agree with the philosophy.
I agree with the philosophy. I think there's many ways to differentiate and be unique. You have to be unique today, right? To be heard and to be, the competition is great. And the fact that you're unique or you're in a specific niche still leaves a lot of competition around you, but it makes the decision to work with you a little bit easier or more straightforward. I think from speaking to all of the panelists here before, I think each one here has their own niche. I wonder if we do have some time, Josh, if it's okay.
We're ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
We're good.
Okay.
We're
so to allow each one, anybody at once, to give us a glimpse into what's unique, special about how you do stuff.
Really shortly at Schwengber, a bit what I said before, we just go it through activities and theme-based classes, and it's always about something really, really specific. And for sure, our main language is English, since we are in a French province, but I mean, English is all over the globe as well. So,
All right, so at Language Sprout, we have a little bit of a different approach. Well, we're still a little bit of a niche market, but we start with a really well-developed, very robust curriculum that takes kids from, and we have Spanish, we have Mandarin, we have French, and we have Portuguese, but we have a curriculum that we developed over the course of 20 years. And it will take kids, and it's sequentially based. So it'll take kids from not knowing hola, not knowing ni hao, all the way up to being proficient language speakers. We have students all over the world. We have students who have Spanish-speaking parents or French-speaking parents at home. We have kids who have absolutely no family support. But it's created so that from class 1 to, I have students I've had for a decade, that we can monitor and know exactly where they are in the curriculum. We know exactly what they've been introduced to. We know exactly what is coming next. And if we have any need to switch teachers or find a different fit, at any point, we can just look back at the documentation and say, okay, they're on level 3, unit 2. Then when the next teacher comes in, or if they need a time change, then we are able to really stay at the exact same place. I think when you have students who don't have a background or anything at home, we get something called, I like to call Swiss cheese language, where we have, because there was no direction or sequence or path for them to follow, we have a lot of knowledge, but huge holes in that because there was no sequence to be followed. Where you may know a lot of vocabulary or you may know some phrases, but what we're trying to do is teach whole learners. We want you to be thinkers. We want you to be able to take, what you know and use it to construct language so that you can use it in any way you want, not just know various vocabulary or themes or phrases, but have a robust understanding of how language functions.
Awesome.
And that
Mercedes?
ends up coming out in not just language, but also in their English learning as well.
Awesome. Mercedes, you want to kick in here?
Yes. Well, my niche is very similar to Ara's because we teach Spanish to children and also very small children. We have students of 4 years old, 5 years old. And one difference is that when we started school in 2004, we pretty much created a curriculum for Spanish speaker children, who were the students that we have at the moment. Many families, immigrant families, coming to the States for the first time and want the children to maintain the language, to keep that heritage, to keep everything at home. Not only, sometimes parents ask me, why do they study Spanish if they already speak Spanish? And they say, because they are children, they're small children. They also need to learn how to read and write in Spanish, and not as a 5 years old, but growing and more.
That's great. Well, I mean, Ada or Mercedes, if you're interested in having a 42-year-old student, I might apply for your schools, but honestly,
adults too.
There's clearly a community here. One thing I wanted to point out, we're also growing our community on Facebook. So if anybody's listening on Facebook, please share this right now. Let's try and get more people into this group, who want to be a part of it. Now, you guys, very successful. That's awesome. It is not all roses. We know that. So I'm going to ask you guys a question. I want you to talk about, the fact that you potentially are still struggling with management and administration aspects of running your big online learning company. Now, some of those challenges might be, because we've heard from people, they are communication, registration, safety, security, and making it engaging. So we'll start with Alex. Alex, just please tell us, what are you still struggling with, man?
I mean, it's constantly evolving. It's been almost 2 years, Langmobile, we do online. We've been doing in person for a long time, teaching languages for a long time, but online, just figuring out how to present the offer is an ongoing theme at Langmobile. We never stop, and quality control with the teacher is like so much resources just go into that. Watching the teachers teach, go in the classes, making sure there's like a strong quality control, implement new strategies with teachers. I think it was said in the first question, the amount of time we could put like in our teachers and our team, and this is like so huge. You would have no idea by just taking a class online, no idea of what's going in the back end. All of these questions you said, registration, presentation of the offer, management, quality control, is like conversations we have every day and try to implement all the time.
Okay. I'm going to go back to Ada. Tell us, again, looks like you've got a fantastic business that's booming in New York City, but it can't all be amazing. What are you struggling with?
I think that what we've been struggling is the constant evolving of the field. Right when we started, we started 1 year before the pandemic. So we had, like this thing going on, like in person, and someone was like, okay, we cannot do this anymore. Okay, so let's see how, like, it was just a shot of like, let's see how it goes. And we started online teaching. And before the pandemic, we used to teach exclusively, like we had a Grown Up in Me program, like a music program for babies and toddlers. That's what we used to do. And so suddenly it's like, well, we cannot have 3-year-olds in front of the computer. Like, so we need to evolve and start teaching to older kids. And then like, well, but now we need to go back in person. Oh no, now schools are closing again. Okay, so now the registration open for this. So it has been a constant evolving, and I think that has been the constant struggle. But the struggle is not about the environment. The struggle, I think, that as business owners is to be able to adapt and to be able to not hold tight on like, what am I going to do if this doesn't work? It's like just letting go and going with the flow. But yes, just adapting, constantly adapting. I think that has been the challenge. I think that everyone can relate. But that's the reason we're still afloat while other businesses sadly have been shut down because they haven't been able to adapt and evolve.
Yeah. Well, the beautiful thing at the end of the day, as somebody who started 2 businesses and sold them, is that you really got no control. You got to trust your gut. You got to go with the flow. and you got to, improvise and adjust on a daily basis, which sounds like that's what you're doing. So Rebecca, challenges from Minneapolis?
I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to be a little bit of an oddball here. I love the challenges because they all represent opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. Every time we have to pivot or flip, there are all sorts of amazing creative ideas that come out of our team that we're able to put out in the world that just make us better at what we do. We, prior to the pandemic, we were a large language program in the city. We went into schools, before school, after school, during school, babies, toddlers, like we taught a lot. And when we flipped, we had to be really creative with how we're interacting with kids. What are ways, especially as we're putting, children as young as 18 months old in front of a screen to learn with us, how are we doing that in a way that is not only, educates them well but makes them interact with us? And so we've really had kind of a great time with making our class really interactive. We've been shipping out materials, having our teachers have the same materials as our students in front of them. The challenges with registration and communication have really just presented opportunities to be better at what we do, to be more communicative, to look at registration programs and say, okay, what do we need to create? And how are we interacting with those service providers that have those registration pieces to communicate with them to make those systems more functional for us?
Yeah, so, well, Rebecca, amen on that. I certainly, if you don't enjoy the challenges and see them as opportunities, you ain't going to be a part of this panel for long or be in business. We know that, so Mercedes, we're going to come to you. We've got things like registration and monitoring and communication and making classes interactive. Is there one specific thing there that you're still struggling with?
Well, this time I would say communication. It's hard for me to communicate what we are doing. Not with the parents that are there or with the classes, but with the new parents to get new students. It's hard to show all the values of the online learning like that. For me, I have social media, many things, but it's hard. For me, it's hard. I don't know how to show it. I don't know how to say the things I just said. Yeah. And also what I've seen, because I have participated in different language programs as a student for study French, for example, and then they communicate a lot with the parents, not via text message. I do text messages or emails, but the parents are completely, they know everything. They have the class, they see what the kids have been doing in the class, not only recording, but also, I can do it, but it's a lot of work out of the other work and the teachers and the curriculum and everything. Just email every class after every class what we have been doing. It's a lot. Well, I know there are programs for that, but yeah.
There are definitely programs for that. And I think we potentially have a solution for that. We're truly all about building community here. I'm looking around my screen here, and everybody here speaks at least 2 languages, which is really exciting. So we've got a community of online language speakers here. We also have a community just who's here to support when it comes to cohort-based learning. And they leverage, most of them, Click2. So Dotan, I can only imagine, has been sitting here wanting to hop in, with the challenges that everybody's having, which are opportunities. And Dotan can talk to us about Click2, what he's seeing when he's talking to other online language providers. He's got an amazing video for us, and he's got an offer. Take it away.
I'd like to start by following up on what Mercedes just shared big on the challenge of presenting what you're doing, because we as ourselves and you guys and the panelists, we're doing exceptional education remotely and changing lives and building futures for those kids. And when you try to show it, sometimes it looks like some boxes on the screen that looks like anything else. And you have this challenge of really showing that what you're doing is exceptional, and it is. And I still think that if we could look into the future 5 years from now, would say, whoa, back in 2021, we were in the dinosaurs age in terms of how things look like, and the infrastructure, but also the experience and definitely the presentation. And, we are trying to build that 5 years future at Click2. I'll try and explain really in short what it is, but also say like what's the offer. So just imagine, when you are starting an online store, for example, you'd use something like Shopify because it is an end-to-end solution from marketing, selling, delivering, all the operational payment collection, everything. Well, if you're doing marketing through emails, then you probably build them on MailChimp, which is an end-to-end for marketing, email marketing. So what we're building is an end-to-end solution for online enrichment businesses. Basically, as an online enrichment business, you need to take enrollments, manage teachers, schedules, get kids on the video conferencing, collect feedback, all the communication, all the things that we spoke about. So where do you go? That's exactly the problem that Click2 is solving. And we're doing it with having in mind the way that organizations, enrichment businesses operate. We are really experts of online classes, and we work with organizations in multiple verticals, not just language. We love helping them identify simple ways to improve the workflow, and by that, really grow and scale. Because a lot of the times, organizations don't realize that they're stuck because of the way they work, because of the way they manage things. And by releasing that, by letting that go and having this all being automated and managed in one single place, it gives them the platform to scale and grow. So if those of you have joined us today to this webinar, and if you'd like to have a consultation session to really help you upgrade your efficiency and become a stronger online class provider, I'm really happy to offer a super valuable consultation call at no cost, and this offer is only available during this webinar. So Joyce is now going to put a link on the chat, and you're welcome to go and find a few calendar options and book it for this coming week. I want to show you a 1-minute video of what Click2 is about, and then we'll wrap it up. So here it is.
When I build an online live learning program, I use a calendar to schedule the video meetings and then assign them to our teaching staff. For processing new student accounts, I use a registration system and a payment processing software. Then I go to my email to send video conferencing links and to communicate with the cohort groups. To record attendance and track student progress, I also use different spreadsheets and lists. Or I can manage my online education business all in one place with Click2. Now I can open a single course or scale up by providing multiple programs with various cohort options. In just a few clicks, I can publish each cohort option on our course catalog for easy registration and payment. Then, everything comes together on the agenda screen, where the teaching staff can easily access their assigned classes. Our teaching staff takes advantage of a multitude of tools that are designed to deliver an immersive live learning experience. Each student uses their secure personal access link to join class, eliminating the use of multiple links and a password. Click2 automatically tracks attendance, student engagement metrics, and post-session feedback, which help me make data-driven decisions. Join the cohort-based learning revolution and scale up your education business. Get started now at click2.live.
All right. Before we wrap it up, I think, all the experts that participated, that were the panelists here in today's panel I know they're all planning to grow their online language education operation. And there is a bright future for this vertical, for this business, for this opportunity for kids and adults to meet people from different places and bridge over cultures and really learn this amazing skill. And we hope that with Click2, that should be easy as one click, as we like to say. And really the more successful that this category of online learning is, the more successful each of us is going to be. So thank you so much, Josh.
I don't know about you guys, but that video seriously gets me pumped up. We are passionate about online learning for sure. I am personally very passionate about online learning when it comes to language as well. So maybe I'm extra pumped up today. And I think this is a great group here that we got together. So I think, Dotan, to your point, if somebody were to see us from back here and they just saw boxes on a screen, they would say, well, that looks kind of boring. And maybe 20 years from now they will. But the energy that we got together, having this discussion from all over the world, from Mexico, from Miami, from Minneapolis to Montreal to Israel, it was fantastic. So thank you all for joining us. Let's keep the conversation going. We've got this great community on Facebook. I'm sure everybody here, Dotan, everybody would be happy to help anybody who's in the chat or who sees this 20 years from now. So let's keep the conversation going. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you very much, everybody.